I stand in my kitchen, the warmth from the oven melting around me as the aroma of freshly baked bread wafts through the air, a soothing reminder of my roots and the warmth of family. This kitchen has seen laughter and tears, its surfaces imbued with love and sacrifice. Each family portrait lining the walls tells a story, capturing moments woven into a tapestry of memories that shape our lives. As I knead the dough, memories resurface of Daniel as a young boy, his laughter echoing against the walls, blending with the crackling fire in the living room. I spent countless hours nurturing him, providing comfort during sleepless nights, and sacrificing personal dreams to mold him into the person he is today. My hands are marked with the labor of my love, yet pride swells in my heart knowing I've built a home filled with warmth for him. The home is like a beloved novel, full of chapters that recount our journey. Weekends spent hiking, cozy movie nights, and birthday celebrations created bonds that I believed were unbreakable. But lately, the joyous atmosphere feels strained, and dark shadows have begun to seep into our lives, especially since Megan joined our family. Initially charming, Megan slipped into our lives with a radiant smile and sprightly energy, quickly endearing herself to Daniel and the children. But her sweetness masked judgments that stabbed at my heart. I can still hear the sound of her heels clicking against the wooden floor, each step a reminder of her disapproval as she surveyed my efforts around the house. Her comments, cloaked in sweetness, cut deeper than she realized. "It could use a little freshening up," she would say, admiring my cleaning as if she were an art critic assessing a piece. Each remark lodged in my mind like splinters. I found myself constantly straightening throw pillows and dusting shelves, battling her subtle disdain. Daniel, my precious son, once my closest ally, appears so distant lately. I yearn for his support, for him to see beyond Megan's charm and recognize the damage she has wrought on the sanctity of our home. The laughter of my grandchildren rings hollow in moments where I crave their innocent joy, and their gazes shift uncomfortably between us, feeling the tension simmering beneath the surface. In the calm warmth of my kitchen, I sense the fear creeping in, a gnawing realization of a shift in our family dynamics. The shifting power has become a storm I didn't anticipate, threatening to unravel years of love and devotion. Every meal I prepare, each holiday I celebrate, becomes infused with a new urgency. Despite the quiet anxiety, a flicker of resolve ignites within me. I know something must be done. I cannot let my legacy dissolve under the weight of her arrogance. I will reclaim the love I feel for my son and the respect I deserve. Deep down I whisper to myself, I will not be silenced. As I knead the dough, my fingers find their rhythm, determination building within me. The brewing storm of confrontation awaits, but I will meet it head on. My sacrifices deserve acknowledgement, not dismissal. I am the caretaker of this home and the heart of this family, and I will not fade into the shadows. Change arrived at my doorstep one sunny afternoon, reshaping the very contours of my life. Megan appeared like a whirlwind, injecting energy into our home while I stood by, piecing together the fragments of my heart. She cradled Daniel's hand with an innocent smile, the sun casting golden hues on her flowing dress. I remember thinking how easily she fit into our family, a jigsaw piece locked into place, or so I hoped. At first, her charm was genuine. The way she interacted with Daniel was heartwarming, even as I felt my place shift subtly beneath me. She flitted from room to room with ease, her laughter ringing out, layering a vibrant new sound over the familiar hum of our household. I observed from my kitchen perch, stirring soup while distractedly catching glimpses of them through the window. The crisp sound of ice in glasses echoed against their banter as they mingled with the children in the yard. But the softness of that first impression dulled quickly, revealing jagged edges. It began subtly, like a dark cloud obscuring a sunny day. As I unfolded family photographs to showcase on the mantel during one of her early visits, she examined them with a critical eye. "Why don't you update these?" she said, canting her head as if she were a curator judging relics. "These outfits are so vintage," she continued, a sarcastic lilt creeping into her voice, slicing through my pride. I could feel her words settling into my chest like lead weights. With every gathering, each shared meal, her comments cut deeper. I can still recall the gatherings where I lost the role of host. During one dinner, as I dutifully filled plates for my guests, I overheard her casually remarking, "I prefer more contemporary table settings. This feels stuck in the past." My hands trembled slightly over the serving spoon, my heart pounding against my ribs. Watching my son's face reflecting the same indifference he always wore, I felt a rush of loneliness wash over me. There he was, my sunshine, yet he went silent, accepting the tide of her disdain without contest. Megan's intentions flickered from amusement to something far less genuine, a careful belittlement, a way to reshape our family narrative. Invitations to family functions seemed to carry a tone of ownership. "You're not included this time, Lorraine. This is a small gathering," she declared with a dismissive wave of her hand, making arrangements that sidelined me entirely. I began feeling like a mere spectator in my own home. At a birthday party for the grandchildren, I labored over sweet treats, the sugary scents from the kitchen embracing the space. As I presented my carefully crafted cupcakes, each adorned with colorful icing, Megan swept in with gaudy store-bought alternatives. With a flick of her wrist, she brought out a platter of Instagram-worthy confections that overshadowed my creation. The children's excitement shifted, leaving a sour taste on my tongue when Megan gushed, "These are much cooler." I bit my lip, trying to reconcile her apparent need for attention with the unease growing in my chest. Each compliment she showered over herself felt like little barbs aimed directly at my heart. Tension began to fold around the household like a tightening coil. I could sense Daniel's bemusement. He always seemed more focused on keeping the peace than standing up for me. My silent pleas for acknowledgement faded into the background, an unnoticed whisper in the cacophony of her overwhelming charm. The kitchen, once a sanctuary, became a battleground for my emotions. Memories of happy times spent cooking together with Daniel, the laughter bouncing off the walls, now seemed like echoes of a distant past. I glanced around the kitchen one night as I washed dishes, my hands submerged in soapy water, searching for the familiarity that once brought comfort. The cozy gatherings of the past felt tainted, each dish I scrubbed reminding me of the growing divide between my once close family and the insidious presence of Megan. The climate of subtle contempt grew so palpable that I began to question everything I had built. I longed for Daniel, to see through her facade to the undeniable strain her presence created, yet even my strongest wishes seemed futile. He never questioned her opinions, he laughed at her jokes, clinging to her new energy, while my voice dwindled against the rising tide. It became evident that I would need to tread carefully in this new landscape I never asked for. Megan had possessed a way of casting doubt on my efforts, turning my love into a burden. Each time she nodded toward me with a falsely sweet smile, I felt less like the matriarch I had always been, and more like an intruder in my own life. As dusk fell around the house, I retreated to the attic, quietly perching myself on the dusty old trunk filled with family keepsakes. The musty smell of faded paper wafted up, a stark contrast to the fragrant memories this home once held. There, among the forgotten treasures, I found comfort in the tangible pieces of our history, a faded scrapbook of Daniel's early years, crayon drawings carefully preserved, each page a testament to the love I poured into my family. I inhaled the heavy air, allowing the weight of my feelings to settle within me. I was determined to uncover the truths buried beneath the sweetness of her charm. With every whispered call to reclaim my voice, I vowed to protect my legacy, the love woven within these four walls. The storm was brewing, and I would not retreat. My story was not finished yet. As days passed, the atmosphere in our home thickened with tension, akin to a storm gathering overhead. I couldn't remain just an observer any longer. I felt the urgency rise within me, and a decision flickered to life. I needed a plan, a way to reclaim my dignity and assert my rightful place within my family. In the deep hours of the night, under the soft glow of a bedside lamp, I contemplated my next steps. The familiar scent of faded paper surrounded me as I turned the pages of a family album, nostalgia mingling with the ache of recent heartache. Each snapshot of Daniel's childhood reminded me of my love and the sacrifices I had made. I glanced at blank pages in my mind, waiting to be filled with renewed strength and determination. I grabbed a notebook and began penning my thoughts, the ink flowing like the rush of emotion spilling from my heart. Set boundaries, communicate clearly, demand respect. Each line reinforced my conviction. I realized that standing up for myself wouldn't just reclaim dignity, it would also establish respect for the love I had provided over the years. Step 1. A conversation with Daniel. I envisioned us sitting at our kitchen table, the same place where we made cookies together and shared dreams. I needed to connect with him on a deeper level, away from Megan's haze. I would remind him of our bond and challenge him to see beyond the bubbly surface of her personality. Step 2. Document my value. To counteract Megan's belittling remarks, I would compile a scrapbook showcasing the undeniable depth of my contributions to our family. Pictures from birthdays, vacations, and cherished moments would serve as reminders of my unwavering love. Step 3. Establish boundaries with Megan. I realized that subtlety had served her well, and it was time to confront her openly about a behavior. I would articulate the boundaries she had crossed with grace yet firmness, reclaiming my narrative in a manner that left no room for interpretation. Step 4. Build a support system. Saithun sounds. I planned to connect with my friends and allies, especially Linda. Her calm perspective would ground me, and I longed for her wisdom as I navigated this turbulent relationship. In the morning, I prepared breakfast in a kitchen filled with sunlight. The sweet scent of pancakes wafted through the air, but my nerves danced with anticipation as I plated them. When Daniel arrived, I felt the surge of hope tightly wound within me, ready to untether. "Can we talk?" I spoke softly, signaling for him to join me at the table. The sunlight highlighted the warmth of our familiar space, laying the foundation for what I hoped would be an honest and heartfelt conversation. As we settled into our chairs, I gathered my thoughts, recalling the moments that brought us together, but recently felt so far away. I took a deep breath, recalling my mantra. I will not be silenced. The room felt dizzyingly still, aside from the soft sound of the ceiling fan, letting me know this was the moment I had prepared for. "Daniel, there's something I need to talk to you about," I began. My voice trembled at the edges, but I pressed on, sharing my feelings of isolation, longing for connection in a home that felt foreign. I highlighted the moments when Megan's veil of charm turned bitter, her comments laden with criticism. As I spoke, I watched his brow furrow. I noticed his uncertain reaction, a flicker of concern crossing his face. I wished to pull him closer, and as my words poured out the raw honesty of my struggle, I saw the walls he built against my truth beginning to crack. I emphasized how much I valued our history and expressed my desire to be treated with respect in our home. Replay our memories, son. Stand beside me. I am still your mother, I pleaded silently, keeping my tone soft yet firm. I need you to understand how her presence has changed the dynamics of our home. While I was met with Daniel's surprise, I sensed the air shifting. He took a pause, perhaps finally grasping the weight of the situation. It felt freeing, and even as I shared my heart, I realized the feminine power I possessed, the ability to foster insight even in the face of opposition. I concluded by asking for his understanding, an open door for further conversation about how we could face Megan's overreach together. I wanted him to see that love should be a circle, not a boundary drawn by anyone who claimed dignity for themselves at the expense of others. With that, I remained quiet, my heart racing. I had taken my stand. I had pushed through the layers of discomfort. Now I waited for his response, hopeful that a path toward reclaiming our family narrative began to emerge before us. The silence between us grew tangible, thick with unspoken words. I felt as if we were suspended in a moment that could unravel into understanding or drift apart into confusion. Daniel shifted in his chair, glancing down at his hands. My heart raced. Every second of silence was a reminder of the fragile nature of our conversation. I had exposed my vulnerability for him, and now I needed to wait for him to see my truth. Finally, he spoke. "Mom, I didn't realize you felt this way." His voice was low, as if weighing his words carefully. I thought Megan was helping to liven things up. I didn't think. I could sense the hesitance in his tone, the acknowledgement that maybe he hadn't been as aware as I had hoped. "Daniel, it's not about her being lively. It's how that liveliness overshadows everything you and I built together over the years." I watched him process my words. It was like peeling back layers of protective skin. He inhaled deeply, his brows knitting together. I sensed a spark of realization flicker behind his eyes, enough to ignite a flicker of hope in my chest. In the days following our conversation, I embarked on an investigation of sorts, analyzing the dynamics at play between Megan, my son, and myself. I started with everyday encounters, keen on observing the subtle contests she orchestrated around me. I took notes, marking moments that felt disquieting and gaslighting in nature. When we gathered for a family dinner, I sat back and observed the table. The hearty aroma of roasted chicken wafted through the air, layered with laughter and jovial chatter. Yet, amidst it all, I caught Megan's cutting remarks. "Oh, Lorraine, did you forget to season the greens?" she chirped, gesturing to the bowl of sautéed veggies that graced the center of the table. My breath caught in my throat. It was always a small snippet of criticism masked in an airy tone, but each one pricked at the essence of my effort. I noticed Daniel's response, how he chuckled lightly and took a bite, oblivious to the barbed sentiment. I swallowed hard, refusing to let her insidious charm dull my light. My hands trembled slightly as I passed the bread around, cradling the warm rolls like fragile eggshells. As I cleared plates at the end of the meal, I caught snippets of their conversation. "Megan, I love your decorations. They really make the home," Daniel said with genuine enthusiasm. I stood at the sink, the sound of water cascading masking my inner turmoil. I felt the ache of being diminished, brewing once more, yet a new resolve took root, spurred by the recognition of patterns that I could no longer ignore. That evening, I sat down and compiled my thoughts into a log. Each entry detailed the specific interactions where undermining comments took precedence. As I reviewed the events, a clear picture emerged. Megan had a way of rewriting our family history, framing herself as the hero while I faded into the background. I will not allow this. The kitchen, my sanctuary, transformed into an arena for observation. Whenever Daniel and the children visited, I made sure to position myself between my son and Megan during conversations. I watched the way he'd laugh at her jokes, but would redirect that laughter to me when he saw my brow furrow slightly. It was an unspoken truce growing between us, but the psychological tension did not go unnoticed. One afternoon, after spending the day coloring with my grandchildren, I felt a ripple of rage brewing silently beneath my surface. I spotted Megan watching from the doorway, a bemused smile plastered on her face. She raised her eyebrows as I shared a silly joke with the kids, subtly undermining the spontaneous joy I crafted. "Are you really trying to compete with me?" she said, her tone inviting ridicule. "I thought you were all about being steady and sensible, Lorraine." Her words sliced through the lightness in the air. The children giggled, but I clenched my fists at my sides. No more would I retreat. "I'm not trying to compete, Megan. I'm here to create memorable moments, just as I always have." I fought to keep my voice steady, steadying the tremor with sheer resolve. The tension hung heavy between us, sharpened by her refusal to see me as equal. Yet in that moment, I felt the power of my truth echoing back. Days turned to weeks. I continued to document my encounters, framing them not as mere grievances but as evidence of the story I needed to unravel. I realized how gaslighting attacks chipped away at my self-worth, and I grew even more determined to present Megan's manipulation to Daniel. My scrapbook transformed into a robust narrative of my identity, action items woven together with imagery. By the time I gathered enough material, the truth felt less like a fog and more like a careful tapestry I could share. Then one day, as the sun dipped low in the sky, I felt it was time for our next conversation. I took the book off the shelf, its pages rich with memories and warmth. I would present to Daniel not just reflections of the past, but a blueprint of our love and family, a reminder that I was still here and worthy of respect. The kitchen table once again felt like ground zero for communication, a place where our hearts could surface without blockade. This time, I prepared a meal filled with flavors and stories. I poured my soul into every dish, symbolism of who I am, a creator, a nurturer, a vital part of his life tapestry. "Daniel," I began, when he sat down later that evening, the scrapbook resting close at hand. "Can we continue our talk?" The table was set, the aroma inviting. And as I opened the pages before him, I watched for the flicker in his eye, not to just recount memories, but to firmly establish where I stood and how it all connected to our present. My resolve solidified. This was no mere conversation. It was the foundation on which we would rebuild our understanding of family and respect. As the golden light of dusk spilled into the kitchen, I felt the weight of anticipation settle on my shoulders. Together with my carefully prepared meal, I set the atmosphere, the flickering candlelight casting gentle shadows across the table. The room hummed with warmth, yet beneath the surface I sensed a primal tension. This was a delicate moment, and I needed to navigate it with intention and clarity. I glanced at Daniel, sitting across from me, his eyes curious but restrained. I felt the pages of my scrapbook beckoning. They held countless snapshots of our family history and the love that had fostered it. This was more than just a book. It was a visual testament to my journey, full of memories I had nurtured and cherished. I needed him to see the mosaic of my sacrifices alongside the sweetness of our past, the threads woven, sometimes tightly, with moments of strife. With a gentle exhale, I opened the scrapbook to reveal the first page. "Look, Daniel," I said, my voice steady. "This is us." The first photograph showed him grinning from ear to ear, candy smeared across his face on his 3rd birthday. I recalled those vibrant moments vividly, the joy that had hummed in the air, the laughter cascading freely, the way we created love in that very instance. He leaned in, and I could read his eyes, a blend of nostalgia and curiosity. "I remember this day," he murmured, a hint of warmth creeping into his tone. There it was, an opening. I pressed on, flipping pages carefully, allowing him to journey with me through our history, the birthday parties, the sticky fingers of summer days spent outside, drawing with chalk on the sidewalk. As I turned the pages, I navigated through the layers that Megan had begun to obscure, stories of our family gatherings before her arrival. We reminisced about our trips to the beach, late nights spent stargazing in the backyard, and quiet Sundays spent reading books together on the porch. I reminded him of how we used to talk about life until the sun dipped below the horizon. Dreams shared openly, possibilities limitless. "Do you remember how we used to laugh until we cried?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. I was reaching, drawing on our shared past to confront the stark changes that had seeped into our relationship. Daniel nodded, his demeanor softening. "Yeah, Mom, I miss those times." The sincerity in his voice stirred a flutter of hope within me. I could see the layers of his memories waking up, bursting forth like wildflowers pushing through cracks in the pavement. Then I flipped to a more recent page, the pictures transitioning into those taken after Megan had become a fixture in our lives. The contrast was striking. Smiles seemed forced, laughter derailed by tension. But things have changed, and I want you to see this. I pointed to a group shot where Megan stood triumphantly in the center, her arms stretched wide as if embracing the family, while I stood to the side, my smile wavering. "Do you see it, Daniel? I feel like an outsider in my own home. It's as if she has rewritten our story," I said softly. I paused to gauge his expression, waiting for the flicker of realization to dawn in his eyes. "It feels different," he admitted slowly, a contemplative expression crossing his face. "Sometimes it seems like I'm caught in between." There it was, a moment of honesty, and I seized it. "You are not caught. You are simply not seeing everything for what it is. Megan has a way of manipulating the truth to fit her narrative, and I need you to hear me." My voice carried the weight of the moments that had blurred together, the cruel jabs, the belittling, the whispers of doubt that echoed in my mind. I began to detail specific incidents, recalling when Megan had belittled my contributions during a family gathering or turned playful jabs into barbs. At the last Thanksgiving, remember how she kept comparing my stuffing to hers? It was subtle but effective. Each comment chipped away at my confidence, Daniel, I explained, my heart racing with emotion. "That's manipulation." He sat back, conflict etched deeply into his brows. I didn't know," he spoke, the words tumbling freely as a confusion clouded his features. I recognized the struggle in him, the yearning to make sense of his two worlds while the reality of choices loomed large. "It takes time to see the truth, Daniel. Those who manipulate often do so because they are afraid of losing control. They create tension to feel powerful," I continued, cautious yet resolute. "And they pull you into that tension, making you feel responsible for their emotions." The familiarity of his silence enveloped us again as he mulled over my words. I leaned back in my chair, waiting patiently, my pulse quickening as I watched a battle unfold behind his eyes. This was the turning point. Either he would grasp the reality I had labored to bring to light, or I would watch my efforts dissolve into uncertainty. Eventually, he breathed deeply, looking me squarely in the eye. "Mom, I think I see it now. I haven't wanted to admit it. I know it's hard," I encouraged, feeling the weight of my own heart. "But together, we can define what our family looks like outside of her shadow. You deserve to enjoy your life authentically, free from her drama." His vulnerability shocked me. It was a glimpse of the son I had longed to connect with, a bridge back to our shared reality. "What can we do?" he asked quietly, a sense of determination brewing beneath his doubt. My heart swelled. "With your support, we can set clear boundaries with her. We need to reclaim our space together. When she crosses the line, we must call it out and establish consequences." In our hearts, the decision to confront Megan together began to root deeply. I sensed this was the growth we needed. It was a step towards reclaiming our narrative and forming a united front that would, at last, dismantle her illusion. "That sounds like a plan," Daniel replied, a spark of newfound resolve lighting his eyes. And as we shared this pivotal moment, my spirit lifted. I was no longer the defeated matriarch left in the dark. Instead, I was the architect of our journey forward. Together, we could transcend the currents that had pushed us apart and forge a new identity for our family. Yet, as I looked at Daniel, my protege in this profound exploration of our bond, I felt the shadows lurking, reminding me that this was just the beginning. The confrontation with Megan loomed ahead, unpredictable and daunting. But deep down, I knew my mantra had not been mere words. I will not be silenced. And no matter how difficult the path, I was prepared to ensure the truth in our family story prevailed. The days dragged on, each marked by the tension of impending confrontation. The air felt charged with unspoken words simmering beneath the surface. I had practiced my speech countless times, talking to my reflection in the bathroom mirror, reminding myself that I had the right to express my feelings. I will not be silenced. This was my anchor, the mantra I carried as I prepared for the night of reckoning. Daniel and I convened at our favorite cafe, its familiar warmth wrapping around us like a cozy blanket. The rich aroma of coffee filled the air, a comforting essence that fueled our resolve. We sat across from each other, brainstorming our strategy like seasoned strategists preparing for battle. "We need to emphasize that her comments go beyond playful teasing," I began, propping my elbows on the table. "They're no longer just jokes. They've started to affect how I feel in our family." "Exactly. If she makes another cutting remark, we'll call her out right then and there. No letting it slide anymore," Daniel replied, his determination mirrored in the fire in his eyes. His support reignited my sense of purpose. Empowered by our shared resolve, I felt we were ready to confront the situation head-on. The day of the planned dinner arrived, and the anticipation hung in the air like the scent of garlic at an Italian restaurant. I could barely focus on the bustling atmosphere surrounding us as we waited for Megan to join us. The chatter of other diners buzzed, but my thoughts hummed with nervous energy, the reality of our plan resting heavily on my shoulders. When she finally arrived, her enchanting smile filled the doorway, and I could almost see the charm radiating off her. But I knew beneath that facade lurked her competitive nature. I steadied my breath, reminding myself of the truth we were ready to uncover. This night was not just an ordinary dinner. It was a pivotal moment in our family dynamics. "Hi, you two," she exclaimed, sliding into the booth beside Daniel, her usual buoyant self. "So exciting to have dinner together." We exchanged the customary pleasantries, but my heart raced. I locked eyes with Daniel, a wordless agreement flashing between us. We were in this together. As our orders were taken, I felt the tension rise. "Can I say something, Megan?" The words slipped from my lips, and suddenly our small talk turned serious. "Of course. What's up?" she replied, looking at me with a smile that seemed genuine, but her eyes glinted with a hint of apprehension. "It's about some comments you've made recently," I said, pausing for a moment as I searched for my footing. "They've crossed a line from playful to hurtful. For example, at Thanksgiving, the way you compared my stuffing to yours felt belittling." Her confident demeanor faltered slightly, but she quickly covered it with laughter. "Oh, come on, it was all in good fun. You know I like to joke." "Joking should never come at someone's expense," I countered firmly, maintaining eye contact as I felt Daniel's support beside me. "It's becoming a habit that undermines my role in this family." "What are you saying? You're being too sensitive," she shot back defensively, but I noticed the tightness in her jaw, her carefully curated charm beginning to crack. "In our family, we need to have honesty. Your comments hurt me, Megan, and you need to recognize the impact they have," I pressed on. My nerves rattled as I navigated the complexity of our family's dynamics, but the drive to reclaim my space was stronger. At that moment, I saw Daniel lean forward. "Megan, we're not trying to be divisive. It's important to acknowledge how these comments affect us," he stated, his tone calm yet resolute. My heart swelled with pride. He was standing by me, asserting our collective voice against the backdrop of Megan's manipulation. Megan's bravado was thinning, her smile struggling to remain intact as Daniel continued. "It's not about being overly sensitive. It's about fostering a respectful space for all of us, and we can't keep letting this go unchecked." As silence enveloped us, I felt a peculiar mixture of empowerment and trepidation. Watching Megan's expression shift from disbelief to reluctant acknowledgement was a pivotal moment. An unsettling doubt flickered across her face, a realization that we were no longer willing to let her thrive at our expense. "I didn't realize how much my jokes were affecting you both," she finally admitted, though it felt rehearsed. "I believe you didn't see it that way, but we've got to be honest with each other to move forward," I said gently. "It's time to change the way we interact, to cultivate respect and sincerity in our relationship." I could feel the tentative connection between us, the barriers of resentment beginning to dissolve, even if only slightly. But the realization that this night wasn't merely an airing of grievances was dawning. We were starting a new chapter, one that required ongoing vigilance and honesty. As we wrapped up our dinner, I marveled at how the conversation had shifted. The electric tension that once filled the air had transformed into cautious hope. We spoke about memories of our family, shared over meals filled with laughter, weaving that warmth into discussions of how we'd proceed from here. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Megan's acknowledgement, however insincere it felt, marked a shift, a foundation to build upon. Exiting the restaurant, the cool evening air brushed against my skin, infusing me with a sense of renewal. I had faced my fears and tackled the storm that brewed in our family dynamic. Side by side with Daniel, I felt more grounded than ever in our shared resolve. We may not have fully dismantled Megan's manipulative tendencies tonight, but we had carved out a space for authenticity where silence would no longer prevail. The journey ahead wasn't without obstacles, but I felt a surge of courage, ready to embrace whatever challenges lingered on the horizon. I will not be silenced. This was more than merely a mantra. It was a promise to myself, a pledge to fight for my dignity and reclaim the love and respect rightful in our family story. The days after our conversation felt charged with unspoken tension, a delicate balance of hope and anxiety filling the air. I had faced the storm during our dinner, but the real test lay ahead. Each time I gathered with my family awaiting Megan's next comment, felt like waiting for a storm to break. I prepared myself mentally, the mantra, "I will not be silenced," echoing in my thoughts. On Sunday, I arranged a lavish brunch at my home, the table adorned with my best china and bright blooms. A meal meant to symbolize renewal. I felt a mixture of anticipation and dread as the familiar sounds of family gathered around filled the air, the aroma of eggs and roasted vegetables wafting through the kitchen. When Megan arrived in her usual exuberant style, I could hardly focus on the clamor of joyful banter over the clinking of glasses and forks on plates. I watched her closely, eyeing the balance of charm she wielded like a weapon ready to strike. After some light chatter, the conversation shifted to Daniel's recent promotion, and I felt the first crack in our fragile truce. "Looks like someone finally climbed the corporate ladder. Hope you don't trip over Mommy's apron strings along the way," she laughed, a glint of malice flashing in her eyes. I felt my heart clamp tightly. This wasn't playful. It was a thinly veiled attack that echoed old patterns. I glanced at Daniel, his cheeks flushed, his discomfort palpable. "Megan," I said, drawing on my resolve, "that kind of joke isn't funny anymore. We've talked about how your words impact us." She blinked, feigning surprise. "Oh, come on, Lorraine. It was just a little joke." "It's not just a joke if it devalues," I replied firmly, maintaining eye contact. "Those comments affect not only me, but Daniel as well." A thick silence enveloped the table as my words hung in the air, palpable and heavy. Megan's confidence began to waver, and my heart raced. I had to push forward. "Family should build one another up, not tear each other down," I asserted, my voice unwavering. "If our interactions are rooted in respect, your words should reflect that." Daniel squeezed my hand beneath the table as if sending strength through our connection. "Mom's right. It's essential we hold each other accountable. Family should elevate us. Your remarks undermine that," he added, his voice steady. Megan's demeanor shifted, and I sensed the cracks deepening in her defenses. She sat back, surprise etched on her face as the reality of our united front set in. "All I intended was to keep things fun." She trailed off, her bravado dwindling. "No, this isn't fun if it comes at the price of someone else's dignity," I stated, channeling the strength I had cultivated. "We need to take these feelings seriously to heal and grow." As the room remained hushed, the dramatic weight of our words forged a collective understanding, an awakening among my family. I glanced around. Faces that had once been complacent now bore the marks of comprehension, perhaps even realization. It felt liberating to confront the dynamic publicly. We might not have resolved everything this day, but we had declared an end to tolerating hurtful comments. As the meal continued amid lingering tension, I sensed an air of caution paired with cautious hope, a recognition that our family story was changing. Our conversation transformed from division to healing, signifying a pivotal shift in our family dynamic. I will not be silenced. My mantra rang true and present, a promise to myself and a vow that our narrative was taking a new direction. The confrontation marked a powerful step forward, opening doors to authenticity and rebuilding the narrative our family deserved. With the strength of my family now united, I felt invigorated. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. I would not allow silence or disrespect to define our future.